is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, is it running dry? And President Biden doesn't seem too concerned that we're hovering around an all-time low, as he just announced he's going to release 1 million barrels from the emergency reserve to help prices during the summer travel season. So, are you happy about this? Or are you pissed off because gas prices, they are skyrocketing and it's hitting everyone really hard. So, since the start of the year, prices have jumped up by 15%, with some states seeing prices right now over $5 per gallon. And this surge, it's not just draining wallets, it's impacting the entire economy. So what's causing this spike? And is there a way out? Because it is a problem worth figuring out. Because your commute costs more, your road trips are less affordable, they cost more, and the cost of goods, that rises as transportation expenses climb. And the summer driving season, it's coming, meaning demand and prices are only going to increase. And Biden's solution is to release oil from our emergency reserves. But here's the thing. Our reserves, they're at historic lows by millions of barrels. And critics, they're arguing that this move, it's short-sighted and it's politically motivated, risking our preparedness for real emergencies. I mean, is summer driving season a real emergency? Do we not see this one coming this year? We see it every year, don't we? So even if it were an emergency, will Biden's move to dip into the reserve, will that make a difference? Will it even move the needle? Or is it just more virtue signaling? But before you answer, let's first look at this more closely. Let's look at and its impact. So then you can make a more informed decision rather than an emotional one, because it can be an emotional subject right now based on who's making the decision. So here are 6 things that you need to know. 1, the current gas prices. They have indeed risen significantly, with stark differences from state to state. According to the American Automobile Association, AAA, the national average for a gallon of gas is around $3.59. But this varies widely depending on where you live. For instance, the average price for gas in Texas is $3.16 per gallon, while in California, it's as high as $5.18 per gallon. So this disparity, it can be attributed to several factors, including state taxes, environmental regulations, and the cost of crude oil. And it's important to understand that these prices, they affect more than just your weekly budget. Higher gas prices, they ripple through the entire economy, increasing the cost of goods, increasing the cost of services as transportation costs rise. For example, grocery prices, they often do go up because it costs more to get the stuff, to get the food to the stores. This means every consumer feels the pinch, and not just at the pump, but in their everyday lives. So number 2, the seasonal demand. It's summer, and the summer driving season typically does lead to higher demand for gas, pushing prices up. This is due to more people taking road trips and vacations, as well as increased activity in general. Sun's out, bun's out, right? And the Energy Information Administration, EIA, they note that the demand for gas usually does peak in the summer months for the year. And the switch to summer blend gasoline, which is designed to reduce emissions during hotter weather, that also contributes to higher prices. And so this blend, it's more expensive to produce, it's more expensive to distribute, adding to the seasonal price increase. And so this dual impact of increased demand and more costly fuel, that fuel production, it creates a perfect storm for rising prices during the summer. So that's number 2. Number 3, Biden. His administration plans to release oil from our strategic reserve, the SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, to help curb these rising gas prices. And so this reserve, though, it's a critical national asset, and it's designed to provide an emergency supply of oil in times of where we experience supply disruptions. And while this release, it might provide temporary relief, it's really important to consider the long-term implications. Our emergency gas reserve, it's already at a historic low at around 367 million barrels. That's down from a peak of 650 million barrels. Draining the reserve further could leave the country vulnerable to future crises, such as, natural disasters, geopolitical conflicts, that just those types of things disrupt oil supply, or any number of things, because, the world, it's so stable right now. There's no need for us to prepare, right? So number 4 would be the political debate, because and this feels obvious because it is an election year. everybody's suspect of what's going on because it's an election year. And there is significant political debate surrounding this decision here to pull from our emergency reserve. Critics argue that this move is solely politically motivated, aiming to lower gas prices ahead of elections to gain favor with voters. Because, face it, just this year, Biden has lost 11% of his suburbanites. This is the group that experts say was really the difference maker in the 2020 election. And he's down 9% with Democratic women. That's some of his strongest reporters. That's his best group. And then he's down across the board with both white and non-white voters alike. And all these stats, they all come from pbs.org, by the way. But the point is, Biden doesn't have too much to run on. So is this move a sign of desperation? Now, supporters of the release, they argue that high gas prices are a legitimate emergency for many American families because the impact of high fuel costs, that can be devastating, especially for low-income households who spend a larger portion of their income on transportation. By lowering gas prices, the government can provide immediate financial relief to millions of Americans. But will it? That brings us to number 5, the actual impact. Releasing oil from our reserves, that may have some impact on gas prices, but will it be enough to make a difference? Will we even notice? Will we even feel it? Because a release of 1 million barrels, that's really, really small compared to the daily U.S. consumption of about 20 million barrels. This means the additional supply, it's going to be used up in less than a day? Like in what? The next 30 minutes? The analysts, the people that know much more about this than I do, suggest that while the release might prevent prices from rising further, it's unlikely to cause a noticeable drop in prices at all. When I do the math, I can't see how it does. How does this even impact prices when this is consumed in about 30 minutes? But again, they're smarter than me on this. But either way, the fundamental issues of supply and demand in the global oil market, that's all still going to persist. Long-term solutions such as increasing domestic oil production and investing in renewable energy, both are needed to address the real underlying problems. But Biden has been trying to abandon one entirely. And I doubt I'd even be making this video if he hasn't been. And so that brings us to number 6, the future. Because it's really crucial to consider what comes next. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, it's a finite resource. And continually drawing from it without a plan to replenish it, that's really risky. The current administration has taken some steps to begin refilling the reserve, but this is a very slow and costly process. And if he were to get more aggressive in the refilling of our reserve, it probably sends the wrong message to his supporters. So he's doing it very slowly of what's already a slow process with the hopes he doesn't get questioned by the squad or anyone else. But in looking ahead, if the administration is truly interested in reducing our dependency on oil and our production of it, should we be tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at all? I mean, it seems somewhat hypocritical, doesn't it? At least counterproductive or counterintuitive. And so that makes me wonder, is climate change really an emergency? I don't know. It's just a question. Whatever the answer, Biden's actions at least cause the question to be raised, don't they? It's a complex and it's a contentious issue. I mean, while the immediate goal is to alleviate rising gas prices, which I'm all for, the long-term consequences and effectiveness of his actions, though, those are open-ended. On one hand, the release might offer temporary relief at the pump. On the other hand, it risks depleting a critical national resource meant for true emergencies. And then there's the political motivations behind the whole thing. Critics argue that it's a short-sighted, politically driven decision, while supporters, they maintain that high gas prices constitute a real emergency that needs addressing. So the reality lies somewhere in between. I don't know. So what do you think? Is this a smart move to help consumers now, or a risky gamble that could backfire in the long run? I don't know. Let me know below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care.